Parshas Shemini, Toshan Ayin Gimel. We now go back to our regular programming. For many weeks in a row, we discussed Purim, we discussed Chodesh Nisan. While we were doing the Parshas, of course, we discussed the Yontif of Pesach. Now, unbelievably, we passed Pesach already. We're now in the Yemei HaSfira. Parshas Shemini. The end of this week's Parsha discusses the different animals, macholos hasuros, different animals that we could eat, ones that we can't eat, different insects that, of course, cannot be eaten. And the pasuk says as follows, near the end of the parsha: Ki ani Hashem ha'ma'aleh eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I am HaKadosh Baruch Hu who took you out of Eretz Mitzrayim. Liyois lochem le'elakim. V'yisem kedoshim ki kadosh ani. That's the pasuk brought at the end of the parsha of Macholes Asuros. So the Gemara, Masechta Bava Metzia, Daf Samach Aleph Amud Beis, discusses a diuk in this pasuk, the fact that the pasuk says Ki ani Hashem hama'aleh eschem. It's the only time in the Torah. All the other times that the Torah speaks about, basically all the other times, the Torah speaks about going out of Mitzrayim, it says, Asher hoitzeisi eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim. But over here it says, Hamala eschem. And Rashi explains that this, when we dive from this pasuk, Rashi says the following: Al menas shetekablu mitzvoisai he'elesi eschem. Since the ani Hashem that I took you out, me'eretz Mitzrayim. Why did I take you out? Al menas, that what? That you should shetekablu mitzvoisai he'elesi eschem. That if you're mekabel my mitzvahs is a tanai. That's why I took you out of Mitzrayim. So Nesivos Shalom asks a kasha over here. Why is it that we pick the parsha of Macholos Asuros to make this point? We're saying that it's unusual, that it's a very unusual thing for the Torah to use this lashon of Hama'aleh eschem, and we're using it to make a certain point that Almanas for this, I took you out of Mitzrayim, as Rashi says in Bava Metzia. So why do we pick this parsha over here to make this point? So Nesivos Shalom wants to explain with the Yesod that really the Ramban speaks about on the mitzvah of Kedoshim to you. Over here in this pasuk, we're talking about Kedusha. So he wants to explain with the Ramban. The Ramban says on Kedoshim to you that we've mentioned it a few times over the years in the Shiur over here, that Kedoshim to you is referring to Kadesh Atzmacha B'mutter. What does it mean that a person's a Kadosh? That you have to be Mekadosh yourself with things that are mutter. In other words, even after the Torah teaches you all about which foods and which animal and all those type of things you cannot eat that are asur, the Torah now adds and says that even when we say v'yisem kedoshim, the Torah is saying that even in a davar that is mutter, even in something that is mutter, on top of all those things that are asur, even something that's mutter, a lesson not to be novel b'shus ha-Torah. That just because something is mutter doesn't give you a free-for-all in the way that you conduct yourself, in the way you do. In other words, basically we're saying over here in this parsha that your normal eating, the way you eat, what you eat, your normal eating should be b'kedusha. And when we say, al menas kain hoitzeisi eschem, al menas, for this, because through this, it is the reason why I took you out of Mitzrayim. It's going on, Zok Nesivos Shalom, v'yisem kedoshim ki kadosh ani. That's why I took you out. The end of the pasuk, I took you out that you should act with kedusha. Like we said by Pesach, if you remember, we discussed by the Yontif of Pesach just a short while ago that really by Yitzias Mitzrayim there were two chalakim. There was the Yitzia from Ra. They were in the Mem Tes Shari Tumah. They had to get out of that. That was one chelik of Yitzias Mitzrayim. And then there was Liyois Lachem Leilakim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim to make us that we should become the Am HaNivchar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted that we should become connected to Hashem. And what's the way to accomplish this second part of Yetzias Mitzrayim, Zok Nesivos Shalom. The way to accomplish that is what we're saying here in the pasuk. V'yisem kedoshim ki kadosh ani. That's how you accomplish becoming the Am HaNivchar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we know, told Avram Avinu, very interesting connection here, the Nesivos Shalom says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avram Avinu, by the bris bein absarim, the following: Yodoya Teda, ki ger yezaracha be'eretz lo lahem. You should know, Avram Avinu, that your descendants are going to be gerim in a land which is not theirs. Va'avadum, we know now from this pasuk from the Haggadah, Va'avadum ve'inu oisam abami oishana. They're going to go into Golus from 400 years. Frek the Nesivos Shalom. What was pshat in this Golus? We just went through the whole yontiv of Pesach. We discussed Yetzias Mitzrayim, Golus and Geula. What was pshat in this Golus? Think about it a second. 70 or 69 up until they got to Mitzrayim. 70 nefashos, kedoshim elyon, went to Mitzrayim. They went into the Mitzrayim, and what happened to them? They multiplied and everything, but they went down into Memtes Shari Tumah. What was the point? Like today, it's a very prevalent term. What's the point, right? But what was the point of going to Mitzrayim? Normally, what's Golus? Golus is that Golus is to come up and you're on a low madregas. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent us into Golus, and what do we have to do? We have to fix it. We have to become higher. Over there, they started on a high point, and they went into Mitzrayim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to get them out of Mitzrayim at the last second, because had they sunk any further down, we don't know if there could have been this type of a geula. So what was the point of the Golus? Zok Nesivos Shalom. The point of Golus Mitzrayim was to prepare us to be the Am HaNivchar. Not just to make us free, as we see free. Or the point is that, like we said, the second part of Yetzias Mitzrayim, to turn Klal Yisrael that now you are the chosen nation. And in order to do that, we had to go through Mitzrayim. Granted, we came in on a high madrega, and granted, we went down madregas, but we had to learn this inyan of Kedusha. We had to learn what it means to come out of the Memtes Shari Tumah. Therefore, we say over here, in this week's Parsha, Hamal le'eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim, as opposed to Yitzia. The Aliyah of Kedusha is what we need to become the Am HaNivchar. And that's the point that we're bringing out, not just to stay away from Isser, like we say in this week's Parsha, not just to stay away from Isser, but to be Mekadesh yourself proactively, to be Mekadesh yourself and to be Male yourself, to raise your Madrega. And this is the place, Dafki here, by Macholas Asuros, where we learn the Yisem Kedoshim, Kadesh Atzmacha B'Mutter, not to be novel B'Shus HaTorah. Dafka over here, the Torah tells us this lesson of an aliyah, of how we become the Am HaNivchar. The Yisoid HaAvodah brings a Rambam in the Igrois, in the letters of the Rambam. He says that a person's deos, your machshavos, your hashkafos, what makes up a person, really, it starts with what he eats. And this is the Rambam saying. He says, first of all, and he says something very, very fascinating. He says, first of all, of course, it's the kashrus of what you eat. What's in the food? Is it kosher enough? Are you being makbid on how kosher the food is? And secondly, the Rambam says something unbelievably, what has an influence on a person is whether you eat b'yishav adas. It's how you eat. It's what you eat and how you eat. And we're not discussing now whether you are what you eat. That's not here. We'll discuss that as soon as we're in a delicious eatery over here. We'll have to discuss that afterwards. Of course, all the food over here is very holy. But the bottom line is, the Rambam says that the food goes into your blood, and your blood is what your nefesh, your ruach, your neshama, the foundation of that is in what you eat. So when we speak about Kedusha, I just want to mention something, it's kedai to mention, and Nesivos Shalom, that's actually brought down, it's a different Nesivos Shalom, not brought down in this week's Parshas Shemini. It's brought down in Nesivos Shalom on Shir Pesach. Nesivos Shalom says that a person has to know that when you have an aliyah in Ruchnius, so we said Hamala Eschem, we're discussing an aliyah, we're discussing Kedusha. It says when a person has an aliyah in Ruchnius, it's dafka at that time that you have an aliyah in Ruchnius that you need to fight the Yetzer Hara even more. Very interesting point. He says, we know, Kol HaGodol mechaveroi, Yitzroi Godol mimenu. Any person that's greater than his chaver, you know that he has also a greater Yetzer Hara that he has to fight. And now when you have an aliyah in Ruchnius, so then you grew. And if you grow, it means that your Yetzer Hara grows also. The Pasuk says, Al Zois Yispalel Kol Chosid Le'eis Mitzoi. The Pasuk. So Nesivos Shalom brings from the Torah Sa'avos that these words, Le'eis Mitzoi, he said what it's referring to, a nice Hasidic Shavart, it's alluding to Motzoi Shabbosais u'Motzoi Yom Tovim. That a person has to be mispalal about his time on a Motzei Shabbos and a Motzei Yom Tov. In other words, when you're on a spiritual high, the Nesivos Shalom says, that's when you need to be the most careful. And dafka then is when you have to be mispalal that we want to hold on to the Kedusha because the Yetzer Hara is going to fight you more than he ever has before. And we know hopefully everybody who's sitting here, everybody who comes to the Shiur, anybody who watches the Shiur, we know we just came through the holy Yom Tov of Pesach, and we know that everyone has grown, probably in Ruchnius and Gashmias, everyone has grown over the Yom Tov of Pesach, and we've gained so much over Pesach. One of the big nisyonos in life, Zok the Nesivos Shalom, is how to absorb a Yom Tov and how to handle the letdown. A very 21st century kind of thought, but a person has to know how to handle the letdown. Because as soon as you have that Aliyah and Ruchnius, the Yetzer Hara is fighting to knock you back the other way. It's just then, mamash at that point, that the Yetzer Hara wants to take it all away. And like all the lessons that we just learned from our Parsha, the lesson that we said that we learned from the end of the Parsha is that we have to work on the Kedusha. That the Kadesh Atzmacha B'Mutter, the Aliyah, Hamala Eschem Eretz Mitzrayim, that comes from the Kedusha. To hold on to the Kedusha that we all gained over the Yom Tov of Pesach in the past month, and through the days of Yom Tov, the days of Cholamoid, all the Shabbos Cholamoid, everything that we discussed over the past couple of weeks, this is an opportunity every person has to know to how to hold on to it. And so of course we stay away from the Isurim. Of course, like at the end of the Parsha, the Machalos and Surais, that we know, that's a given that we stay away from. But also, there's a way to go about your life with the Dvarim HaMutarim. And we should all be zeichet to hold on to what we all gained over this Yom Tov, what we learned from this week's Parsha, for the end of Parshas Shemini. I see everybody's smiling. I'm talking about gaining things, and right after we finish the Shiur, everybody's going to go dig right into the delicious food. So we'll stop the Shiur right here and hope everybody has a wonderful Shabbos. Yeah.